Today we're going to talk about one of the alternatives to absolutism that will develop at roughly the same time. That alternative is going to be England's answer to absolutism, and it comes in the form of something known as the Glorious Revolution. As always, there are some key terms and ideas that you should be able to identify by the time this lecture is completed. And actually, I have no questions for you this week, just key terms. So let's get to it. As we discussed in class last week, absolutism had become the governing philosophy of many of the great powers of Europe. Nations like France, Prussia, which we call Germany today, Austria, and Russia all had elements of an absolutist government in place by the end of the 1600s. The one remaining great power, England, however, did not go the absolutist route. Instead, England went with a different kind of system that we today call constitutionalism. England's constitutional system is born, in some respects, in the early parts of the 17th century. Between 1642 and 1648, England fought a nasty civil war. This civil war was not between two different ethnic groups or two different religions within England. Instead, it was between two different parts of their government. It was a war between the Parliament, or what we would call Congress, and the king. Parliament was a representative body that claimed a right to govern alongside the king. Specifically, they claimed that the king could not issue taxes without their approval. The king could not imprison people without a reason for doing so, nor could the king house soldiers in private homes. King Charles I, however, opposed any efforts to limit his power. War broke out, and ultimately, Parliament will win. In 1649, they will actually execute King Charles I and will set about creating a new government without a king. From 1648 until 1660, England will be governed without a king. In its place, the nation will be governed by Parliament and by the military. The system doesn't work very well, however, and in 1660, Parliament will offer the throne to King Charles I's son, who will become Charles II. Charles II will rule with Parliament rather uneasily for 25 years. He chafes against the limits on his power, yet he also knew what happened to his father when he had opposed Parliament. Thus, Charles II, for the most part, goes along with what Parliament wants to do. Charles will die in the year 1685, and this will make his brother, James, king. James II poses a problem for England. England was a staunchly Protestant nation. It had openly discriminated against Catholics, preventing them from holding offices in the English government. James, however, was a Catholic, and there was a fear that he might return England to Catholic rule. The crisis came to a head in the year 1689, when a group of powerful noblemen in England will secretly make an offer to James's daughter, Mary. Mary was a Protestant who was married to William, who was a powerful nobleman in the nation of Holland. The English schemed with William and Mary to help them invade England with an army to overthrow James. The plan will work, and in 1689 James II and his family will flee England for France. In their place, William and Mary will become King and Queen of England. This is known as the Glorious Revolution because so little blood was shed. There were no big battles, nor was the king executed. But, along with the throne, William and Mary also had to accept a Bill of Rights. This document outlined the powers of Parliament and of the king and queen. In short, the Bill of Rights will limit the powers of the monarch. Among those rights listed in the Bill of Rights were that Parliament would have the right to make laws alongside the king, that Parliament alone had the right to issue taxes, that the army would be funded by Parliament. The idea here was that they didn't want the king to have an army that was loyal only to him. Also, there were individual rights involved here as well. The citizens of England had a right to trial by jury. So, there were certain things that the king and queen could not do in England. This limits his power and creates a constitutional system of government. Something else that will distinguish the constitutional government in England from the absolutist governments in Europe is the fact that William and Mary could not claim the divine right of kings. It was clear that it was Parliament who had made them king and queen, not God. Therefore, they could not claim that their sovereignty came from God, nor could they claim to be God's representatives on earth. One of those who will observe the Glorious Revolution with great excitement was a man named John Locke. Locke was a political philosopher, and in his essay, Two Treatises on Government, he will explain what had happened in England. He said that human beings were born free and with a natural right to life, liberty, and the ownership of property. Moreover, he argued that it was the duty of government to protect those rights for the people. If his ideas sound familiar, they should. Locke's notion of life, liberty, and property inspired this document. That's the Declaration of Independence, of course. In fact, Locke was one of the chief inspirations for the founding fathers of the United States. In conclusion, here is today's lecture in a nutshell. While the rest of Europe was concentrating power in the hands of their kings, England limited the powers of its monarchs through the Glorious Revolution and through the Bill of Rights. Almost a century later, these ideas will be the inspiration for our own American Revolution.